Hello reviewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about Hasselblad 907X and CFV 100C. Yeah, it's a weird name, but basically we are focusing on CFV 100C. So let's dive deep into it. So what exactly is this? Well, this is an old school type of camera, because if you remember the old school days when we had this sort of system, there was an issue that you could not just change the ISO, because you have to do this in order to change the ISO. So that was an issue. So Hasselblad in the around 1940s, a bit before that, they came up with the idea, what if you have a SLR, but the back is detachable, meaning the film roll mechanism is in one unit. And if you take a one shot, okay, then you have a physical shutter that is making sure that next frame is not getting exposed, and then you can swap that. So your lens remains the same, your viewfinder remains the same, but you can swap the back. So you can have one negative, black and white negative, one color negative, one positive, one higher ISO, one lower ISO. So this became a very big ecosystem. So what we are talking about here today is this puppy, CFV 100C. That 100C is digital version of that negative thing. So a lot of people invested bonkers amount of money into this, and Hasselblad, well, it went to the moon. That's how huge it is. So Hasselblad had an ecosystem, and in very high-end photography, basically people who do not ask about the cost of the photography shoot, they were buying a lot of into it. So this ecosystem where you can replace the negative with the digital back became a thing in early 2009 and something like that. So what we are talking about today is basically upgrade of that. So it's a very slow moving industry in this sort of product category, medium format, but it's never dead, it's never gone away, and it's slowly keeping up upgrading itself. So CFV 100C is a Mark II variant of the digital back, and this puppy is medium format is a very messy format compared to full frame. Full frame means full frame, the end. Full frame from Nikon, Fuji, or whatever have you, Panasonic, it will always be full frame. But the moment you go to medium format, it does not mean anything. Medium format simply means above a full frame and below large format. So it's a messy thing. So to give you a context, you can look into full frame medium format of Fuji. Take the millimeter, it would be different compared to this one. Take this compared to phase one, it will be different. So we have to be a bit more methodic here. So methodically speaking, 43.8 millimeter multiplied by 32.9 millimeter and 100 megapixel sensor. What does that mean? That simply means this puppy has 1441 square mm of surface area. It's huge. And this is another aspect of why medium format always gives you such a good result. You have to know the law of physics is very clear on this. If you're forcing light to go through a very narrow aperture, and the projection area is very small, let's say your mobile sensor, no matter what you can do, law of physics and coherence and all that other jazz, fancy stuff, will make sure that you will never get the most crisp image. Now, have a okay-ish lens, not the latest and greatest, okay-ish lens, but increase the projection area, you'll be like, damn. And that was the reason why we used to have large film formats. Heck, there are large formats that are 1 foot huge. Heck, even this lens wise is not as great as compared to modern system, but it will still give you an image result. If you focus it well, it's like, damn, it's good, it has a feel, characteristics to it. Why? Because of that fact that it's projecting on a much larger surface area. So how big is this? Well, this is compared to 864 square millimeter of full format. So that gives you 1.6x of surface area. That's huge. So it's significant. Let that be very clear. It's a very significant jump up. So modern medium format digital back. What does that mean? That simply means now you can have the latest technology of autofocus and auto exposure. And yes, there were hyper expensive digital backs, but it did not have that. So that is why it's a big deal. And what about this 907X is just a mount that allows you to mount different kind of lenses to it, because be mindful, the digital back is designed inherently in such a way that it acts like a film area basically. So flange distance requires a bit of work to make sure that flange distance works properly. So you have 907X. So but be very mindful, we are only talking about the digital back part of it, which is CFV 100C. So this is what this whole hassle is about. So what was the specification? Well, this is a 100 megapixel backside illumination. So you have the latest and greatest technology, not global shutter. They could have done global shutter and they could have gotten some amazing results, but they have leaf shutter, so they do not need it that badly. what about the pixel size? Well, in pixel size, it's 11,656 pixels multiplied by 8,742. So it's huge, meaning you have to have some serious hard drive capacity to handle these puppies. And in terms of RAW, it goes to 16-bit 3FR format RAW, which is around 210 megabytes. Huge, meaning you have to just like let the hard drives go. You have to be that kind of guy. What about JPEG? Well, JPEG, because it's 8-bit, you can get up to around, and JPEG compression is ancient algorithm. So you're only going to get 40 megabytes of file reduction. So 40 megabytes size of JPEG. And you can go to HIF, which has much better algorithm for compression, and it also has higher bit depth. So you have 10-bit. That can give you the same file for around 20 megabytes. So that can be done. Now, this is one clever piece that they have inbuilt SSD, and I do love the fact that they did not overcomplicate it. It's just like, dude, this is our box, this is a SSD, and you're like, wait a minute, that looks like a PC SSD. Yeah, it's the same SSD that is used in Steam-held handheld tech. So they're not proprietary, they're not soldering it. So this is a good approach of doing it. It does not cost too much for Hasselblad. That means over time, that cost does not get passed down to the user. So, and this image is like, they're kind of aware of it, that they are not hiding it, they're not making it magic. And you look at other companies' brochure, they make internal SSD sounds like it's a, like, you know, latest and greatest technology ever invented. I'm like, bro, laptops have been existing from 1990. We got this, we know this. So this is a very good option. And they also comes with card slot. Be mindful, it's never a good idea, especially if you're doing a very expensive paid shoot, to trust on one data point. So they have one data point, and they have a CFast Express Type B card. Now you can rely in such a way where you are only dumping the data into this, only dumping data into this, or you can dump data both of them. And okay, let's say worst case scenario, you went into a shoot and you're like, oops, I forgot my card. This will keep you chugging along. So it's a really good, unique way of doing things. Now, how do you get data in and out and charging in and out? It's USB-C, this jack that you see. Now, that jack is a bit problematic simply because it's recessed inside. There is a shutter and it's recessed inside. So not every cable can fit inside. You have to be mindful of that. That's 10 Gbps port. Basic USB 3 is 5 Gbps. One step up is 10 Gbps. Next step up is 20 Gbps. So 10 Gbps is a good USB-C. Most laptops should have 10 Gbps USB-C ports. And this can also act as a primary charging for this battery puppy. That should be done in 2 hours. And yes, it's generally recommended to have spare batteries. No video recording. They're like, nope. This is a negative replacement. It is a negative. As simple as it's just digital negative. They're not even trying to like, we can do like, you know, 8K or 16K. No. This is a simple, very simple, what you call stills camera. That's all there is to it. It was nothing more, nothing less, a still camera. So for whom these puppies are made? Well, it's made for people who already have Hasselblad system. For example, if you are in this ecosystem and like, isn't this ancient? Trust me, they are still being made and still being sold, and people are like literally paying bonkers amount of money to get into this. And like, if I'm not mistaken, like a Playboy magazine, they really pushed you know, medium format photography for a very long time. I do not think they have switched very quickly. And other magazines were also known, and there were some product categories. They were like, dude, we only shoot in like, you know, a negative system. So there was a very healthy ecosystem of Hasselblads and Phase 1 and Fuji GFX, where medium format is still a king, and many of them still use negatives. So for those sort of people, if now let's say the clients are like, you know what, nobody is buying that magazine that much, might as well reduce the cost of it. So at that point, maybe. And this system, this digital back, is designed in such a way that it should be able to backwards compatible with 1957 system. Like, why do you need backwards compatibility? Well, there is electrical contacts, electrical firing systems, and sequencing and all that. So basically, the benefit of having a proper integration is that you replace the digital back, you use all the buttons in the frame rather than on the electronic side. So you will not even notice it that you are using a non-negative system. If you enjoy old school shooting, meaning there was a point where I was like old school, very old school photo shoot, and I did shoot a roll through this. If you are those kind of guy and you have very deep pocket, you can go into this and you can have a very nice time about it. And everybody who's covering it, they're talking about like there is some aspect of fun to it. It's just a stills camera. You only supposed to do stills with it. That's a very like, you know, stress reducing kind of thing in nowadays, because nowadays camera can do everything, so you end up doing nothing. So you can do that, and it's generally preferred for those kind of environment where you take your time with the shot. It's not designed for like Sony, global shutter burger like 120 fps. It's not designed for that. It's take your time. Like if you are taking one shot, you take your goddamn time. You're just like, let me frame it, let me adjust it, let me level it out, everything. Basically, you have to be very methodic with it. That even though it's a digital system, you have to be methodic as you would be if you were using a negative system. So what sort of ecology? Well, you have model shoots, you have landscape, you have product photography. So those sort of ecosystem could be beneficial if you are using this puppy. So what about competition? Well, competition wise, this is where it has poor prospect as a new tool. Let that be very clear. If you are in this sort of ecosystem, you have to understand people do not pay for technical detail. NASA does that, but people pay for feeling, the look, the feel of it. So that is not scientific. That's not like this has to be the sharpest ever. Many times people will prefer a very pleasing image over a technically sharper image. So it's one of those things where it's like you have to be a bit mindful of that. But if you are in a scenario where it's like it's not that important for you to be like give the Hasselblad look, you could jump into other things. For example, lack of IBUS on a 100 megapixel system means you have to use you have to use reliably a very stable tripod. If you do not, it will shake. Now, does not mean that image will be blurry. It simply means image will have the perceived resolution of 50 megapixel because it will have micro shakes. So you need to be very vigilant of that. That's why IBUS is required. Lack of continuous autofocus. If you have ever paid attention to any professional model shoots, they charge a lot. And if you ever see them doing a lot of pose, it looks weird. It's like why it's very robotic. It's by design. They have been trained from like the negative era where it's like you do not move, you do not even breathe, like your whole face has to be a static point. Only then the focus system can lock onto you and then click it. If you move and you have continuous movement, modern digital continuous autofocus system is like, bro, I got this, you can keep dancing, I'm like, I got this. But this sort of ecology of medium format negatives and digital backs, yeah, no. So lack of that means you have to pay a lot for your models. If you do not, you're gonna have a hard time, or you have to shoot a lot in order to get, okay, one, finally I got one where every single feature is exactly in focus. Now that limits your usability of this tool. Because if you are like, hey, I want that Hasselblad look and feel, because Hasselblad does have some luxury. The luxury is that their brand name is so significant that they can sell you unprocessed images. The images that are coming out of it do not have Canon color sign, Nikon color sign, Sony color sign. They have natural color sign, and the noise is kind of high, and you're like, then why people are still buying it? Well, here's the deal. Noise is not a bad thing. Anybody who has used cameras like this, they understand it. Noise has a character to it, a signature to it. The more you remove it, the more it looks plasticky. That's a primary reason why a mobile photo still looks like there has to be noise into it. Heck, our eyes are noisy, so having a system where it's like no noise, it's like like heck, you'll pay attention to movies like Top Gun Maverick. They shot the movie, it was too clean, they added artificial noise to it. So you have to understand, like having a camera company that can give you just the raw file that does not have or has bare minimal noise reduction, that's desirable. So Hasselblad X2D, this puppy is still from Hasselblad, has the same sensor 100 megapixel, but has IBUS and continuous autofocus. So that would be far more useful as a tool. It's like, hey, I do not have a ecosystem to jump into, I would like to buy this, and you're gonna have much better time in terms of just buy it and use it. Then if you're like, hey, I need to go into medium format, I do want to get the luxuries of large projection areas, as in like lens projecting on a large surface area, Fujifilm has that GFX 100 Mark II, which again is also does video. So this has much more capability wise. So you have that option, and you were like, no, I want the true authentic feeling. Why you're going the half authentic route? You can still buy this sort of cameras, you can still buy the negatives. Heck, I have done this. You can do that too. If you're like, hey, I really want that feeling, go with negative. Do not half-ass it. And be mindful. The reason I'm not talking about price in this, if you have to ask the price, you can't afford it. It's in that category. That is why not even a single mention of the price. So In terms of competition, I would say if you really are going for the authentic feel, you will have, heck, you can buy a Hasselblad model, basically Hasselblad camera body, same body, where you can replace it with the digital back, and you can still buy film rolls. Kotak is still manufacturing it, and all that jazz. And you can get it developed in, especially by mail. You can get it developed very easily, scanned very reliably, and you're gonna have a awesome time. So do a proper authentic thing. Do not do half thing. And if you want to be like, hey, I need medium format, you can go there. Hey, I need medium format that has Hasselblad signature. This Hasselblad. That tool that we are talking about here, it's a very niche within a niche within a niche. It's like you have to meet all the criteria, only then it makes sense. It's desirable, it has some looks to it, but almost all of it can be recovered by this or this. So although this has leaf shutter, so it does have very high sync speed, this does not. The only camera that can beat all of these is Sony global shutter option. So this was my presentation of this Hasselblad Hulululu that's happening right now. It's like, what the heck, why everybody's talking about it. So I hope I have made those things clear. If you have liked it, learned from it, in that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.